Hey everyone, in today's video I wanted to do a beginner-friendly tutorial on how to create a balloon garland. First I start with inflating. I always push the balloons up against my chest and then I cross my hands and tie to make a dupe. And this is basically how I do it. 2 balloons is a dupe, 4 balloons is a quad, and then I always make clusters of 6. I'm not sure what that's called, but I just call it a cluster of 6. So once I'm done inflating all of my balloons, I will go ahead and start clustering. So first I'll take 2 dupes and I will make a quad. You basically just twist a couple of times so that it's secured. And then you'll take another dupe and add it to this quad to make a cluster of 6. So I'm going to show you guys how I measure balloon garlands. So this is 2 clusters. This is 2 feet. So I wanted to show you guys how a foot of balloons looks. A lot of people get confused on how to price them. I feel like pricing will come with experience. Once you start getting out in the field and learning how much work it really is, you'll kind of get an idea of what you feel your worth is. But typically I charge $18 to $20 per foot, depending on the size of the display. Here I am, making, I believe this is a 6-foot garland, which is what the client requested. I ended up adding a lot of balloons to that. I charged her what I charged her, and then I added, the extra balloons to make it look how I want it to look. But this is 6 feet. A 6-foot base. I always build out the balloon using, quads or 24-inch balloons, and then of course the little 5-inch details. I tie each cluster together using the necks of the balloons. That's why when you're inflating, it's important to tie the correct way so that you have a lot of neck on each, cluster, so that you can tie it so it's not as hard to tie it, because certain balloon brands aren't as buttery as others, and it requires a lot more muscle strength from your fingers. I had a long weekend as you can see, but for this event it was very, very small. It was a baby shower and they requested a easel with a balloon garland and then an additional 6-foot balloon garland to go on one of their walls, as you'll see later in the video. And I charged her $475. She lived very, very close to me. She only rented the easel with the balloons. She provided the sign, and then she asked for an additional 6-foot garland. So that's basically it, and I charged her $475. So that's pretty good pricing. And she deflated the balloons or popped the balloons afterwards. I'm doing all the prep on this beautiful Sunday morning because it's a small event, so I wasn't really too worried about it. But what I'm doing is taking a 260, tying it around the command hook, and then using hot glue to keep the 260 from slipping off when you are tying the 260 around your balloon garland, because it will slip off these command hooks. The outdoor command hooks, they move, so that doesn't happen on the other ones. I only have to do this to these indoor command hooks. Later in the video you'll see how I wrap the 260 around the balloon garland instead of tying the 260, because I feel like the tension from tying the 260 will sometimes pull the command hook off of the wall. So to avoid that, I just wrap the 260 around the balloons. take a bag full of, just some filler balloons. I always inflate them a little bit smaller than the base garland. And here I am just getting a few of each color and getting them ready to go, as well as my 5-inch balloons. To start a balloon business is some balloons, some 260s, and some command hooks. People make it very complicated, I feel like, but to get started, to get your hands, busy, and to start practicing and get better at the skill so that you can create a business doing this, all you really need is some balloons, a 260, a balloon pump, a handheld balloon pump, and that's it. You don't need the fancy toolbox. You don't need anything crazy to get started. You don't know if you're gonna really want to do this. It's a lot of work, so I would definitely suggest just starting out with the bare minimum before you go crazy and buy a whole bunch of stuff. Hey everyone, so we are here at I got my bag. I usually bring my toolbox, but since it's a small event, we're gonna keep it as minimal as possible. So I'm about to unload right now. Go say hi and then keep the garland in place, I just take a 260. The sign will be covering it. And this is the base balloons that I did at home, and then I'm going to start adding some fillers, which is some smaller quads. I like to put the sign up while I'm doing the installation, because sometimes the balloons will push the sign forward, and then if your balloons are already tied in place, it'll be really hard for the sign to stay. So I've learned that just through experience. Now I'm just going to start adding on, building out my balloon garland so that it is the way that I like it. As you go, you will start to see where there are holes in your garland, and that's where you want to add your quads or your 5-inch quads. And then you just keep building out. I always build out a lot. I usually charge clients for the base garland, and then I build out. Again, pricing can be very tricky. So I'm going to start taking my rubber bands and my 5-inch balloons and adding them to the garland. You could tie using the necks, but I like using rubber bands because it's just a lot easier. Excuse me. It's just a lot easier. So I go ahead and get a whole bunch so that I'm not going back and forth, and just putting the rubber bands around them so that I can start adding them to my garland. This is their additional 6-foot garland that they ordered, but I gave them at least 10 feet, probably more, of balloons. But here I am, as I mentioned before, I'd like to tie the 260 around the balloons, and it holds it very, very nicely. You don't have to worry about it falling or anything like that. You do want to make sure that the command hook is on there really good before you start tugging at the 260, because if it's not tight to the wall, or if it's not sticking to the wall, it will pull off. So you always want to make sure that you have those extra sticky backs. Whenever I'm looking at my balloon garland, where I add my fillers is where I don't want any holes, or I want it to look more full. So if you see spots that are empty, or where you can see the 260s or the necks of the balloons, you either want to manipulate the balloons so that they don't show, or add more balloons. And I wanted this to be more bottom heavy, so I'm trying to make the bottom look more full without using as much balloons, because again, they only purchased a 6-foot garland. So I use the command hook on the floor to kind of pull the garland out and give the illusion that there's like a whole bunch of balloons back there, but there's not. And yeah, I see, I just keep adding. I feel like the more balloons you add, the better. It's kind of like painting. You paint and then you add more and more and more, and it's just like a whole bunch of layers until you get the final product. And I didn't have any 5-inch of the eucalyptus Sempertex balloons, so I'm going to go ahead and make some really quickly. I tie the knot at the very, very end of the neck for both balloons, and then I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the balloons in the middle and use the neck to kind of act as like a rubber band and make it into a dupe. And then I will use both of those little dupes and I will tie them together just like I would the bigger balloons or the smaller clusters. When adding any greenery or floral, I like to kind of have the greenery and floral coming out of the balloons or give that illusion. So I will really get in there with the floral and the greenery, and I will put it inside the balloons, twirl the greenery around the balloons, just so that it is one with the balloons, if that makes any sense. Wrap up here. Thank you guys all for sticking around and watching. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'll be doing that Q&A very, very soon. I really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in and being so kind. I appreciate all of you. Take care. Bye.